In today's video, I'm going to share a mistake you might be doing in your detailing business when you're doing paint correction or polishing on a customer's vehicle. You might learn a thing or two. Let's get started. I remember years ago when I got into paint correction that I thought that every time you were to get out a polisher to correct some paint or even polish some paint, it had to be done to the 10th degree, meaning you're gonna do the compound, you're gonna cut to remove 80-90% of the imperfections, and then you have to follow it up with a polish to refine and get the most gloss and clarity out of the paintwork. Like in my head, from all the YouTube videos that I watched, all the Instagram videos, like of all these 55-hour detail, 100-hour detail, a 20-hour detail, I was like, dang, so with paint correction, like it takes a lot of time, doesn't it? Like you have to do all these crazy things and you have to be very specific and precise, and man, like I guess that's what I have to do. So whenever I would get a paint correction customer, this was back in like, let's say, 13, 14, 15, somewhere around there. I couldn't tell you the exact year. That's the mentality I went into the jobs. I was like, okay, like this is gonna take forever. Like I have to go panel by panel. I have to pull out the light every single time, and I have to be very accurate with the paint, and I have to make sure it's all even and like everything is at 90% corrected, because like that's what is expected of me, and that's what the customer wants, and that's just 100% wrong. And I don't mean you're wrong in sense of you shouldn't do that. It's more so of you only do that when the customer is paying for that level of work and attention. But if it doesn't require that much work, you don't have to do all that. So for instance, on this vehicle here, this Volvo, I forget the exact model, is we're doing some polishing, right? It's not in terrible condition. He just really wants the vehicle to look better. But there's a lot of spots where the paint is chipping, where there's a few dents, and it's just an older vehicle. So he's not looking for perfection by any means. He just wants to make it look glossier, shinier. He's not there looking at every little imperfection, every swirl, scratch. He doesn't have a light inspecting, looking up and down the paint. He just wants to kind of give it some new life. So with this vehicle, we're doing a two-step correction on the horizontal surfaces, and we're doing a one-step on the vertical surfaces. And the reason behind this is, one, it's more of a budget detail, so to speak, right? I think in total we charge $600 for both the headlights and the polishing. But the mentality wasn't, we have to go for perfection, or man, like we have to chase every swirl and scratch. It wasn't like that. So on this vehicle, it didn't take a full day, it didn't take 2 days, it took about 5 hours to complete. As we're polishing and correcting the different panels, we're not pulling out our light. We don't have a light carrying with us to make sure we're getting 80% swirls out. We do a test spawn. We make sure, okay, this is gonna work for these sections, this is gonna work for that section, and that's it. We don't have we literally don't have our light right behind us checking the paint every single pass, because it's not that type of detail. And I remember so clearly falling to that mindset of like, okay, like here's this BMW X5 that I have for a correction. Like, okay, it's gonna be an 18-hour job, right? Because that's, I have to go super slow on the panels and slow arm movement, and I have to cut and polish, and like that's the mentality I carried over. But with this one, it's like it doesn't have to be anything like that, right? Like I know like the general rule of thumb is like, slow arm movement, work a 2x2 section. But as you gain more confidence and experience, it's like you break all those rules, because they're not really, there's no science behind it. It's just like someone made up that rule. It's a good rule to follow, but after a short while, you're like, yeah, I don't need to follow these rules anymore. So instead of like a small 2x2 section, I might work a 4x4, a 6x6, an 8x8, if it makes sense. Like if what the process that I'm doing fits what we're going after, I'll do that. Obviously, if it's super hard to paint and I need to work in smaller sections, I will. But that's the point of like fitting the type of services that you're doing to what the customer is expecting you to perform. For instance, right, when the customer came to pick up the vehicle, his excitement level was basically like a 9 or an 8, right? But for this argument, let's say it was a 7. Let's say his excitement level was a 7, right? So he was very happy with the results. Now, what if we spent 16 hours correcting and polishing the vehicle, right? Would us, instead of spending 5 hours, we spend 16 hours. Would that change the customer's happiness scale? Would that take it from a 7 to a 10? Would that take it from a 7 to an 8? Or would it stay at a 7? The reality, like just the practical advice of running an actual detailing business and having actual like customers' expectations, it probably wouldn't do much of a difference, right? His happiness scale is at a 7. We could have spent an extra 5 hours, 15 hours, At best, it would have moved from a 7 to an 8, and that's about it. So it doesn't make sense to spend, 2 times the effort on the vehicle if you're not gonna get any different results for the customer. Again, it's not like, oh, well, does that mean you shouldn't do more if you can? It's like, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying based on the customer's expectations, based on their budget, based on what you think you should be doing, it's like you have to fit the appropriate level to what the customer is expecting, right? Because you can easily always go and do more. Of course you can get more swirls and scratches out. Of course you can do another pass on the interior. Of course you can go and get that stain out. But it's like the reality of running a business, staying within budget, and then making sure, okay, if we do this, the customer is expecting this and we deliver that. Yes, we can do more, but even if we do twice as more work, what does that change to the customer's perspective? And a lot of times, it's not much. This detail overall isn't some sexy YouTube, like there's a lot of 50-50s or a big difference on the panels. Like, don't get me wrong, as a whole, based, from what the vehicle came in for versus how it left, big difference, significant difference, a lot glossier, shinier, the paint is smooth, like there's a big difference. But as far as like what you see on the internet with the YouTubes and the Instagrams and crazy before and afters and this montage, like it's not that type of detail. It's a very straightforward thing. So when you're getting into correction, when you're getting into polishing, you'll have those details where you're like, okay, this is gonna take a while, it's harder paint, or the customer wants this level of expectation, so it's gonna require that level of work. But I'd say more often than not, it's gonna be a relatively straightforward process. And usually when you take longer or you're chasing those swirls and scratches, it's based off of your expectation of what you wanna do. And I know it's very hard to draw that line between this is what I wanna do as a professional detailer, as the one that wants to see the paint as good as it can get. And then there's the other side of that you have to be on of like, okay, well, the customer is only paying for this much. They're expecting this level of work, and you have to have the discipline to say, yeah, I have to stop right here. Right? If the customer is paying, if it's a Camry, let's say, and they're just paying $400 for one step polish, which let's say it gets 40% of the swirls out. But if you do a quick 2-step, it's gonna get 80% of the swirls out. But if you do the 2-step, let's say it takes you 7 hours, but if you do the 1-step, it takes you 2 hours. So it's like, yes, you can do more, and you have that urge to be like, oh, you know what, I'll just do it because it's gonna look so much better. But as a business, as you needing to create income and to keep your business running, you have to draw that hard line of like, okay, I know I can do more. I know I'm capable of producing better results, but per what the customer is paying for, this is the level of results that I'm supposed to deliver, right? Because it's an agreement between what the customer said, what you agreed upon, and then that's what you deliver. And this vehicle did not get a ceramic coating, it just got a sealant. Again, it goes back to like, yeah, not every vehicle that you're gonna polish or correct is gonna want a ceramic coating, right? Because it's based on the customer. And not every person that wants a ceramic coating needs a heavy level of paint correction and polishing. Just the other weekend, we had I always forget the vehicles that we have in here, but it was a newer vehicle, and the paint was basically immaculate. Like we did a quick light polish on the vehicle just to make sure the paint's all leveled out. But we literally probably spent maybe 2 hours polishing the paint. There was no heavy correction, there was no heavy swirls, maybe in a few spots here and there, but like it was a very easy vehicle to work on. We applied the ceramic coating and it was all done in a day. So it really comes down to the vehicle, the condition, the customer's expectation. Like these are the things that matter. It's not saying, oh, correction, but I'm gonna throw everything to it. It's like you have to work on each vehicle case by case. All right, and I'll go ahead and end the video right here. Hopefully you learned something. Let me know if you have any questions in the comment section down below. If you want the ultimate guide to start your detailing business, if you want to check out my second YouTube channel, the Proper Care channel, where I talk and teach everything detailing related, or if you want to listen to my podcast, it's the Detailing Business Class podcast. You can check for all these links down in the video description box below. Thank you very much for watching another video, and I'll talk to everyone on the next one. Bye-bye.